Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Good evening. How are you doing? Hello.
Hello.
Are you friend?
You're really blurry.
I'm blurry. I'm blurry. You're blurry.
You're quite blurry. Just setting up.
I can change that. Hang on to a second.
Andy, you got on?
I am on, yes. Hi.
Yay.
Hello, Andy.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Your face? Yeah.
Good.
I think. Grand scheme of craziness, I'm all right. In the grand scheme of craziness, I'm all right. Not bad.
Good,
how about you? Your family all right? And you're keeping safe?
Yeah, good, thank you.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Good. And presumably are you furloughed, or are you at home, or what? How's it? What's working?
I'm not doing any massage work or anything, but all my other stuff I'm furloughed from Nuffield. But I've got a few individual clients still having triathlon coaching plans and whatever. But obviously the face-to-face side of it's not happening.
Sure. Yeah. Well, for obvious reasons, isn't it? That's where we are. Some tricky times, isn't it? Trying to keep our heads still and keep our heads together, and get together a plan of what we're going to do. Hello.
Hello.
I don't know people's names. Tracy. Oh yes, Tracy, it's you, all the way from.
Hello.
Is that right?
My Wi-Fi is really, really poor tonight. Yeah, I'm still over in France. My Wi-Fi connection's terrible tonight, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get much of what you say.
See how we get on. There are times when it's better than others, isn't it? And you get Wi-Fi is a nightmare. Andy's nice. Am I clear, Andy?
Yes, fine, Chris. Thanks. Yeah.
Some people's are not so good, and you get a real grainy picture. But cool.
Last week's wasn't too bad, but I think this week I think it's the internet connection here, so it's nothing to do with you guys. It's to do with my connection here. I think it's really bad at this time of night sometimes.
I guess it's a busy time, is it? I don't know. The whole working day and how everybody gets on is completely different now these days, isn't it? So I don't know. I guess it's busy all the time. But yeah, certainly for me, I get periods when it's quite good, and other times where it's pretty rubbish. So pretty good. Well, I can see from the bottom of my screen there's a dozen or so people, half a dozen people around. So I don't know if anybody wants to say hello and have a bit of a hello to each other. Say what we're doing. Are you? If you're not familiar with Teams, there are 4 people on the screen at any one time, as you can see. And as people talk, then the people once you start talking, you come on screen. If that's what you want, obviously you can turn off your camera if you wish to, and just listen in. We have a certain amount of people that just sit in the background listening in, which is absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. So who said hello? I interrupted somebody. Sorry.
I'll say hello, Chris. I haven't seen you for a while.
Who's that? Ah,
Michaela.
hello, Michaela. Gosh, nice to see your face.
Yes, nice to see you too.
Gosh, it's been a little.
Pardon?
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while, yes. Yeah,
Gosh,
fighting fit now.
are you well? And
I am
yeah,
very well, yes. Yeah.
if I remember right, I remember talking to you about goats. Is that right? Have I got the right?
That's right, yes, yeah.
Isn't it? The last discussion we had was the upkeep of goats.
It
Did you
was,
go
yeah.
ahead and find a goat farm?
No, because funny enough, what we were talking about at the end, and you were saying about prices for the milk and whatnot, and didn't think it was sustainable for goats.
Oh yeah,
Lots of the products out there. So when we looked further and asked them to
Thank you,
produce
Olivia.
more information, their milk prices have gone right down.
Really?
So we give it a bit of a wide berth.
Okay. Cool. And you're okay now? You're well?
Yes, yeah, yeah. After my op and everything, yeah, fine fit now.
Good. And I guess all this has come at a really rubbish time.
Yes, yeah. Sort of. I was just getting back into the flow of things, and prepping for maybe for my exam and everything, and it's sort of come to a halt, hasn't it? So can't really get much done at the moment.
No. It's about keeping ourselves well, isn't it? And using the time to study or do other things to keep our minds active and focused.
That's right.
We've decided it's nice to see some faces I haven't seen for a while. It's lovely, and we thought for a while that we'd keep Thursdays going, Thursday evenings going, and use this platform and see how it goes. And it's been quite successful. People have just wanting to come and say hello, and I think it's nice just to reconnect, as always, with people that are doing the same job as us, and just share some ideas and thoughts. This week I put the case study together. Our friend John. Has everybody had a chance to read it and have a bit of a think about our friend John? I don't. Is there a John with us? But tonight I've got to be careful what I say about John, haven't I? People had a chance to have a read.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
What do you make of our friend John? Now, this is where you mustn't all talk at once, because it all gets very busy if we talk at once. What did you think of the case study? Let's have a start.
Okay, go ahead.
Say that again, sorry.
I was just going to say, from reading case notes, what jumped out at me a bit was the knee possibly being a little bit of a red herring. Obviously, he had a problem with his knee in the past, but what I was looking at was maybe more of his the connection, the postural, so the postural sling maybe that was going down from his neck all the way down to his glutes, possibly his tooth fell into his knee.
It looks all to be on that right side though, doesn't it? If you look, if it's right shoulder, sometimes it's usually left hip.
Oh yeah.
But I
So
don't
that
know
was
whether
weird.
that knee, but as you say, I don't know whether that knee was a bit of a red herring, that kind of a bit of a curveball that Chris had thrown in there.
Yeah, definitely.
Am I that transparent?
I think one of the things might be the latissimus dorsi with the lower back pain pulling down on the shoulder.
I was thinking maybe the QL muscles as well might have some relevance there, actually.
I think with any lower back pain as well, I think you certainly do testing with the glutes, hamstrings, and see what leg muscles were tight.
Yeah.
Hello, Katie. I recognise your face. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
I'm struggling with getting everyone's videos up in connection, but the people are coming and going, as am I think.
Teams works on the concept that who's talking at any one time, you're on the screen. It's useful to keep your microphone off unless you are talking, and then we work with 4 people on the screen. So it's quite different to Zoom, where you have everybody on the screen all at once. This is 4 people, and then as you don't say anything and somebody else does, then those people will come on screen. So that's how it works. So it feels like you're losing people, but I guess there's quite a few people in the background listening. And
Right.
so, what's a good place to start with this case study? Where do we what do we think about the observations I made about his lifestyle and him as an individual, what he does for a living, his activity? You thought it was a bit of a red herring, did you, Mark, about the no long-lasting damage to his knee? Do you think that was just a bit of a... Turn your microphone on, Mark. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Keeps forgetting to unmute. I don't necessarily think it was nothing to do with the knee. I was just following up from a comment from the previous lady who thought it might have been sitting at a desk. Obviously, sitting at a desk at a long time, he's kind of probably hunched over. I don't think that helps, and obviously he's not doing much exercise apart from just walking his dog. So those were sort of two points that jumped out, certainly from his job and his lifestyle.
Yeah.
Eats a balanced diet. I mean, I suppose that's all right.
I don't know what a balanced diet is these days. I don't know. Just my usual provocative. So say again.
Where in the knee, be right side, would it be inside knee, under the kneecap? I think if you've got more detail on where the pain is in the knee, you might then be able to A, rule it out as a red herring, or B, connect it to the rest of the issues.
Yeah. I'm sorry, that's all I know about John.
Well, I'd probably start with a sort of mid-thoracic myofascial release and just see what you feel is tight and see where it takes you. And I would say those myofascial slings would probably be involved.
Yeah. And from what you've written as well, it sounds like the whole of his upper back, shoulders up to his neck is all just locked up. You know, if he's got pain when he's just lifting his arms, I guess he's lifting his arms forward, so he's doing flexion, extension, lifting out to the side as well. It just all seems, everything just seems quite locked up around there, like the traps, the deltoid, and all those kind of medial and lateral rotators.
Sure. I think your point, Katie. Sorry, go on.
So, I was thinking I would have probably checked out like his stress levels as well, whether his workstation things was at the right height, you know, whether he was bending over too much at work, and whether
I had that as well.
His sleep patterns,
office setup. That's a good point.
Yeah, because if he was bent over all day at work, it may be nothing to do with his knee, and is probably to try and get other exercise in for him as well, because he's just walking. So his flexibility perhaps suggests swimming as well, once you found out what's going on.
Would you ask him how long he is actually sitting? Because he's going to be sitting an extension, isn't he? So his glutes are going to be compromised there, I think.
Yeah.
So how long is he sitting at his desk? Is he getting up? Is he taking any, exercise from it? Is he doing any walking in between? He might be sitting at his desk if he's an IT specialist for 8 hours a day, more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I really like the debate about that combination of is pain and restriction to do with weakness, or is there a fascial muscle issue? You know, and that combination of, you know, is this chap actually somebody who needs to get a bit of strength in his system and start strengthening and length and strength? Is it just as simple as that, or is there something a bit more kind of chronically? It's felt like to me a chronic kind of thing, sitting all, you know, for a fairly reasonable chunks of the day, desk orientated, exercise not that important to him, other than the dutiful job of walking his poor little four-legged friend. Balanced diet. I don't know what. I'm always a bit fussy about people that say they eat a balanced diet. That generally means they eat what they want. In my humble opinion, I don't know. I mean, interesting. I mean, it's an interesting discussion, isn't it? And the knee, where does that fit in? I think Katie's view was an interesting one. You know, to find out more about where that pain is, how that sits with it, you know, is that, how long has he had this? There's a lot more questions to ask, isn't there, that we haven't got in this simple stuff. And hence at the bottom I put, you know, so, you know, what further information do we need about this man? And we're getting there, aren't we, in turning, understanding his knee, understanding more about his lifestyle, you know, just how long he sits at chairs, all that kind of stuff, you know.
Also, as well, what else has he got going on in his life? What stresses does he have outside of work? What's his home life like?
Yeah,
you know, all those the body just understands stress. It doesn't necessarily know stress that comes from work and wherever. It just knows stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Wendy's point about that, I think it's a lovely one.
Yeah, because what would be going through my mind would be, you know, if his workstation was at the right level, right height, he's carrying a lot of stress. So some of it could be a sort of like lactic acid build-up as well. You know, if he's like stressed to the hilt, sat at the wrong position, you know, that could be part of it as well, and his sleep patterns.
Yeah.
I think
I would definitely go back to the knee. I would definitely go back to the damage and try and find out, like Katie said, a lot more about that knee incident. It says that there's no long-lasting damage, but it's still hurting. It still remains sore after long walks. So there's questions to be asked. Well, yes, there is some longer-lasting damage there for sure.
Absolutely.
And his footwear as well. Can you hear me, Chris, or not?
Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, hello. Nice to see you.
Hello. Hello. I would look at his footwear as well, especially only because of pronating, and also because that would give pressure onto the knee, especially if he's going on longer walks, and that's where he's so. And also if his footwear, how long he's been walking in these shoes, or if they are trainers and things like that, because that and if you need support. So I wouldn't discontinue the knee at all. I'd work downwards or work upwards. But there we go.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful, isn't it? I agree.
I would think his hip flexors would pretty much guaranteed be tight. If he's sitting at a desk all day and his hip flexors are tight, that will lead to glute weakness, leading back. But it would also potentially lead to straining the patella and therefore leading to his knee pain. So I wonder whether the knee started it and then it's manifested itself all the way up through his work and lack of exercise.
Absolutely.
I was also thinking about Trendelenburg Syndrome, and if because he's presenting with right lower back pain as well, the pain is in the right knee, and if he's dropping out towards the right hand side, he's also going to be jackknifing at the QL area in the back as well, which would explain.
He's got weeks to live there. Poor chap. So he's ruined, really, isn't he? It's quite nice. It's quite a nice chap. No, he's all right.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
He needs us to work on him straight away.
I think Chris, there's
Say again, Katie.
He sounds really tight across his front pecs. So, and his desk position would bring that on even more. So I'd be stretching out his pecs and strengthening rhomboids, strengthening back muscles to correct his posture, and I think that might help his shoulder and neck pain.
Yeah, I think you definitely look at what his shoulders were like, whether they were protracted, and work on those. Look at his scapula as well, where his scapula are winging.
I think you've also got to look at the hips and work up as well, because there is a knock-on effect from, somebody mentioned earlier that he's probably got an anterior tilt on the pelvis, tight quads, tight hip flexors from being seated, and the hips would need attention, so that the work that you do up around the pecs, etc., is just as effective.
Very hard, isn't it? These kind of chronic long-term issues where, and the key question is always for me is, where do we start? Where do we start? You know, you've got, I don't know, 20 minutes assessment, and then you've got half an hour plus, maybe 40 minutes of treatment time. What are we going to achieve in that first 40 minutes? What's our target? Where are we going to begin? Given this guy, I have a sense of him as somebody who's not massively going to be motivated. You know, he doesn't sound like he's going to set the world alight when it comes to, give me some exercises to do and a stretchy band and I'll get off and do it. He sounds to me as a chap who kind of, stress levels are pretty high. He kind of, takes life as he finds it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do. And you'd have to adapt your exercises. You could give him stuff that he could do at his desk, just when he has a few minutes in between bits of work, or stuff that he can be doing, like squeezing a ball between his knees, whatever exercise you decide, see if you can adapt them that way.
Yeah. He's going to love working with you, Sarah, isn't he? He's going to love it. Excuse me. Just
getting up from his desk, walking with help to get out of that position. Just say every hour, stand up, walk around for 5 minutes, come back.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Regular movement whilst he's at work, not just sitting down all the time.
Yeah.
I haven't got time for that. You know these clients, don't you? You know these people who, somehow we've got to present our work in a way that ignites them into activity, where they start to take control of this rather than feel a victim. So often you get those people that just feel hard done by, and you've got no idea. You don't understand my life. You don't understand how I work. You don't really get to grips with what I'm sharp end of IT. I work my socks off. I ain't got time to muck around squeezing a ball between my legs and wander around my office. I've got time for any of that. Live in my world for a minute. I grab my lunch on the go. I'm cracking up. I ain't got time to piss around. I walk my dog because I'm told to.
Well, good luck with having pain.
Easy wins.
Sorry?
I think start with easy wins. So give him a couple of neck stretches to do at the desk and make him realise the benefit of it, because soon I imagine his neck pain will start to ease. When you massage him, you're identifying which muscles are tight, and he's going to feel it. You might not know those ones were tight. He was complaining about pain elsewhere, but once you start to actually feel tight muscles and you can release it and he feels benefit, then maybe he might be more engaged to do little bits.
Yeah. So it's a real challenge, isn't it, for all of us? We must all have clients like this, where we desperately want them to be engaged more with what they, the outcomes and creating outcomes, and getting them to do that is a real challenge.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with Katie with kind of quick wins. Hello. With like pec opener, working down the spine, because the difference that can make just from one session. He goes away and thinks, wow, I feel much better, and then you can start with so start doing like scapular retractions or like chin retractions and things like that. Those type of things.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think keep it simple. Keep it to, like you say, I don't know if you've ever been given more than 2 exercises and remembered the third. I certainly struggle. It has to be, memorable, and not take too much time out of his very busy schedule as an IT dominant. And maybe even trying to incorporate it into, when he brushes his teeth, So it kind of starts to become habitual. He goes, oh, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going to do that exercise. So kind of linking it with other things can be quite helpful to get people motivated to do the exercise every day.
Yeah, little jobs that you do every day, like brushing teeth, like waiting for the kettle to boil, waiting at a red light. They can all be triggers as well to remind the person that they should be doing something now.
The bit that I've done in my clinic is give people information. And if I explain what the rhomboids are, or I explain what pec major is and what we're trying to achieve, and actually show diagrams or give, you know, very clear little videos or something that engages people to understand what's under the skin, there's an interest in their own bodies, rather than it being a kind of a two-dimensional thing, three-dimensional, where we can really be part of their, you know, their recovery.
I think you get then when they have an understanding of what's going on, they're a lot more likely to buy into your advice.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So the crunch questions is where we're going to, you know, he's very protracted, isn't he? Rounded. I'm reading it from my other screen here.
Hunched forward.
Hunched forward. Yeah. Where do we start our treatment? And probably, and why? You know, where do we start our treatment and why? Do we go from the spine and the pelvis and really see that as a central part of locking that and opening that up a bit, and hip flexors and getting? I think it would be a reasonable guess to suggest that his hip flexors are going to be tight. I think that's probably a reasonable hypothesis, isn't it? I guess. Or do we focus more on actually the pain for him is mid-thoracic neck, shoulder pain? You know, is that more of our centre? Is that our, you know?
I think I would probably start possibly at the lower back QL area and try and get the that adjusted a bit better, so he's not so tilted, and then move on to the opening the chest up and pulling the pecs back, and getting the shoulders a bit more mobile, and just so he's got a bit more mobility in the main areas, so he can actually feel some benefit when he goes home that night, day.
That was one thing that I was thinking of, that I want him to feel some benefit from the first session. So I probably would have started around the shoulders, the pecs, do a little bit of work around the neck just to release off some of that tightness. And then maybe in subsequent sessions, second or third, is to then look at the pelvis and the lower back and find out what the root cause of it is. But just in that first session, to try and make him feel a bit better when he leaves the treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, Mark. I would probably start at the, you know, trying to sort the neck and things out first, so that he had some relief instantly, and then work on down and see if it's something else causing it in subsequent sessions, but just work lightly over those areas to begin with.
Yeah.
You could always have one leg hanging off supine to open up the hip flexors while you're working through the pecs, as long as it's not a problem for the lower back.
Have we enough time? I would think, you know, there's some work to do, you know, releasing pec minor, serratus anterior, you know, opening up the chest cavity a bit. Haven't we got time to do that, and a bit of sort of hip flexor work and QL and in 45 minutes, 50 minutes?
Yeah.
Or do we need to focus in one area, or is it okay to? I think, Chris, are you suggesting that we do think about QL lower back, and in that same treatment open up the chest as well? Did I read you right, or were you thinking slightly different?
I probably would try and do that. Yeah, I would. I think I'd just try and get that QL, just that area lower back, just a bit more straightened out, and then move up higher. I think I'd have enough time to make a difference. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, and there's not a right or wrong here, is there? It's just interesting to sort of pool our thoughts around, you know, fascially, where is the sort of centre pinnet point of his problem.
Hi, Chris. Claire here. Hello, everybody. I'm a little bit late to late to joining in, but just thinking about that, I would probably try and stay within an area first, and probably where he's come initially in terms of pain. So shoulders, and then obviously open up the pecs. Depending on what you've got to hand, but things like cups or needling or anything like that, you can obviously try and make the most out of it. But I wouldn't try and do too much, as in too much of a body initially, because you'll kind of get lost with what you're trying to do. And depending, I don't know what levels everyone are, but when you're trying to do METs and everything else with somebody, it's a lot to do in that time. So. But he's clearly somebody that's going to be on your couch a lot if you can get him in.
Yeah,
does it have to be 45 minutes though? Can we not do an hour to try and fit some of this more stuff in?
Yeah, why wouldn't we? You know, people run their clinics differently, Chris, don't they? Some people, you know, first time would give an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half, or whatever. Other people, it depends on your situation, isn't it? Where you are with yeah, where you rent your space and etc. etc. You know, everybody's different. So I played around with an hour, but yeah, surely you might say the first time you're with me, you're going to be with me an hour and a half, and that's going to cost you X. And you know, then you've got a good, probably best part of an hour to really kind of do some work. And I quite like the model more and more where I do a bit of work on something, and then I kind of in the session stand back and let that do its stuff. And it's almost like, you know, working a bit on pecs, working a bit on opening the chest, and then rather than just moving on swiftly, kind of walking away a bit and maybe giving, you know, a minute for things to sort of settle before I go on to my next kind of thinking, rather than it being a, you know, I like the model of less is more, and I like the model of allowing the fascia and the neurological system to kind of feel the difference of what you're doing, particularly if you're using MET, you know, muscle energy technique. It's a really powerful tool that allows, you know, so much kind of neurological reprogramming of range of movement. So to allow the body to adjust to it and to feel what you're doing, rather than just feel you're going through a sequence of, right, we're going to do this, and then we do this, and we'll lay you on the side, and we open the chest, and we'll do this, and crack on with the QL, and then we do that MET around the quads, and bam, 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 bam. You know, I quite like maybe slowing it down, but I don't know what other people think.
Interesting. Yeah, that's worth thinking about. Yeah, definitely.
I think allowing the body to kind of, if you like, hear your conversation with it, and I don't know, that's a bit weird to say, but I do use that. I like that model of having a conversation with the tissue, rather than and so therefore the body and the tissue feels kind of involved with your moves and what you're trying to do, rather than something feeling done to. And I think fascia responds really well to being communicated with. I can't think of better words, Chris, but they're the bits that come to mind. But what other people, how that hits other people? People might say, nah, you know, I think they get on with it, you know.
Chris, what I used to... Sorry, Hannah, you go first.
I was just going to ask, is it just taken for granted that you're doing tests as you go through, or would you do certain tests and not others on the first time? Where do the special tests come in for this?
Yeah, good question, Hannah. When I put this together, I'm very aware that the people that are in tonight will be of all different disciplines, and I wanted it to be as broad as I deliberately didn't use terminology that would would initially just cut out holistic therapists and reflexologists. You know, there's room for all here, and what John's kind of protocol for me, or his study for me, was the kind of stuff that comes in all our clinics all the time. This is our bread and butter. You know, rounded shoulders and lower back pain. God, this is what we do all day. Be that a holistic therapist who's working with stress and people feeling overwhelmed, or be that a sharp end sports therapist working from his gym or clinic or wherever. So I put it together thinking that, you know, it would incorporate all, really. I didn't want people to be, what's the word, left out? That would be the first word. I don't know if I achieved that. So I don't know where the holistic people are tonight. They're obviously around. I can see their names. And if you feel that kind of, this is our bread and butter, isn't it? This is stuff that comes into your clinics.
I like the idea that somebody mentioned you do lie the leg off the couch to the hip flex whilst you work on the shoulder. So you're actually getting, you're letting that lie, letting it stretch in its own time. So you're sort of doing two things at once.
That would work quite well. That would work quite well if you do, you know, cupping or needling as well, wouldn't it? You could do all sorts of different, you know, that idea of multitasking, if you like, for want of a better word.
Chris, I've actually looked at mine. I'm learning to turn the camera off just in case I was making tea. No, not tonight. I'd looked at it from the reflexologist point of view, although I've joined in with the like massage point of view. So when I wrote up my notes, so if anybody else wants to join in with the reflexology ones, I've done that. The other thing that I used to do was, if he presented himself like he had with two problems, one at the top and one at the bottom, as such, I would have worked, if I was doing it, I'd have worked on the shoulders first. But then in the second half of the treatment, I'd gone on to do the lower half of his body, his, you know, hips, glutes, whatever, went down there to see if the problem was stemming from there. But I would have put a heated towel on the area that I just worked on, and then put another towel over the top while I'm working, so that's got time to sort of calm, and then I would have done an overall massage just at the end, just to calm down. But so I'm happy to talk reflexology if people want to do that as well.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if there's any other reflexologists in the what do we call these people that are waiting in the audience? So we use that word. We could use the word audience, couldn't we?
In the lobby keeps coming up. Someone's in the lobby, it says.
Yeah. I don't know where that is, Chris. I've got no idea where the lobby is. Isn't it?
Check outside your door. Maybe it's in your hallway or something. I don't know.
Yeah, isn't it the bit between your front door and your lounge door? Is that the lobby?
So. I think so. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't got one, so nobody's there. I can check, and I don't know. Anyway.
I think one good question to ask him, and go with what he says, is where's the pain most pronounced? Because he's moaning about pain in the knee after long walks. He's talking about pain across the shoulders, but it also hurts when he does shoulder abduction, forward flexion. So finding out, you know, what would he go away feeling the happiest to have got rid of, and work towards.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. You could always ask him as well, you know, when does the pain feel the worst? You know, is it after he's sitting at a long desk? Does he feel it as soon as he wakes up? And is there anything that he does that maybe helps to relieve the pain?
Yeah. He rubs his neck as he explains where the pain is, so he's got neck pain too. Okay, so I don't want, I never know how long to go on with these things, and you know what the outcome is. Or I suppose the key bit is if there's anybody there who wants to contribute to, you know, the okay, we got a picture of John, we can see him, we know what he's like. Where do we start our treatment? And you know, there's always that debate, isn't there, whether or not we start. Do we chase the pain? Which people who've been trained by me know that's my pet dislike. We don't just chase the pain. We don't just rub where the pain is. We think about why, and you know, presumably we can see that his hip flexors, lower back pain. That's a reasonable guess, probably, and obviously his mid-thoracic pain and neck pain is going to be related to that round hunchedness of his upper torso. So groups of muscles where we would start a treatment, where will we kick off? Given that, I mean, hearing Chris's views, you know, given that we've got a good chunk of time, an hour, is it reasonable to suggest that we kick off in his lower back, maybe in pelvis, and seeing what that's those hip flexors are up to, and do a bit of work around our shoulders and open up the chest, or vice versa. We start on the anterior deltoid and pec major, minor, and opening up the cavity of the front of the chest. Somebody who's on keyboard all day and a mouse all day, I think pecs and anterior deltoid are a major contributor to that whole closed medial rotation and retraction of the shoulders. Sorry, protraction of the shoulders. And we've got to start somewhere and pull that through and start to get him easing out his chest muscles. And I reckon that in an hour we've got enough time to move around a bit. We don't have to just do the upper body. How does that? Anybody want to sort of play a bit more and take that further?
I would say,
I think for like
diverting a little bit from the treatment, I would say maybe advise him to get some sort of assessment at work, his seating position, his workspace, his computer and his desk and his chair. Otherwise, you could be quite losing battle every time you adjust him. He goes back to work the next day and he ends up in the same position again.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. A whole kind of, yeah. I don't. Yeah, is that? I don't know what people's views on this. I mean, I get mixed reports about workplaces. You just take the desk that's available. If you're hot desk, you just sit wherever you sit. Other organisations are far more kind of tuned in to making sure that workstations are appropriately set up, individually.
I think the bigger operations, big corporate places are much more set up for that, aren't they? They're much more into that sort of health and safety stuff.
Yeah. It's sure.
The only thing I suggest is that there is a 90-degree angle at the elbow, and that as you rest your elbows on a desk, that your shoulders aren't hunched, shortening your trapezius, etc., over a long period of time. So as long as there's a 90 and a 90, then the person has the opportunity to relax through the shoulders, and things won't shorten as a result of their posture there.
Yeah. Where would you start your treatment, Sarah? What's your thinking?
Well, I think the picture that I've got from John is that his issues are quite chronic. They've been around a long time. The fascia is going to be tight. The muscles are going to be short, and so, I mean, depending on the size of the guy, I'm not a huge person, but depending on the size of the guy, I think I would focus on the shoulders first. I would probably have the leg hanging off just to help me out, because the work that you do up here is going to be influenced by the shape of the spine, and if his lower spine is too convex or concave one way or the other, it will eventually rack up the spine and undo the work that you've done in the first place. So if you can address both areas, like Chris said, I would try and make sure that I have the time to do that, to make sure that the effects are longer lasting. But I would start on pecs. You've got to have a look at scalenes and as well, and SCM, because there was a head forward posture, I think I saw. Head sticking out. So if you're going to get shoulders back and down, you've also got to think about pushing the chin back a little bit too, to get an overall result. So that's where I'd start.
Anybody else want to sort of present their kind of treatment proposal, for want of a better word? I'll pick on people if people don't say.
I'll go. For the sake of ease, I'd probably start them off in seated and do some soft tissue releases to the neck, to the back, to the traps, to the levator scapula. And I think by then you're going to buy him some trust, because he's going to feel immediately a bit better if he's got a really tight neck and shoulders. Then I'd lie him on the couch on his back and do the pecs and do anterior deltoid, do a bit of range of movement through his shoulders, and possibly do the scalenes whilst he's on his back in that position, and then also hip flexors, and then roll him over
and finish off with the lower back and thoracic area, and trigger point up into the occiput. I imagine that's probably quite tight as well. And that can be, so finishing up with those neck muscles up into the head can be quite a relaxing way of finishing off treatment.
Yeah, nice one, Katie. Yeah. So you try and kind of get the whole thing together, really, work and try to do a whole package of the whole thing all at once.
I would with the first session, because I think this guy would want some quick wins, and I think that way you're going to buy his trust. Once you've bought his trust, you're going to then get more out of him with his homework. I think once he realizes how much you know and what you can do with all the tight areas of his body, I think you're going to buy him his confidence in you.
Yeah. Cool. Anybody else in the background there who might want to just have a think about where would you start your treatments and why?
Oh, and then as it's gone a bit quiet, and I've put my video on this time so you can see my face. Hello. That's better.
Nice to see you.
You too.
Nice
Crap being unemployed, but you know, keeping busy with the kids. So I think I would have him prone initially, warm up his back, get some cups up his back, all up the erectors, and then just do some work through his shoulders back to the arms for him, flip him over and really open up the chest. I think it was Sarah said really about getting in the neck, get that SCM back, get through his scalenes, because he's probably going to have a little bit of thoracic outlet issues if he's starting to be a bit like this all the time, and then finish with some sort of trap and levator METs and a nice bit of up through the back of the head. And probably just to be really nice, depending how it was, I might even go over the whole of the top of his head.
That's nice.
Just to shift
Lucky
it all
job.
around.
Lucky job. God. Really interesting, isn't it? And how we start and where we start our treatments here. Thank you, Claire. That's brilliant. So nice to see your face. I've been thinking about you. How are you getting on? You all right?
Yeah, it's just really naff. I mean, I don't know. I only know a couple of other faces, especially Mark and Michaela and stuff. But see, I jacked in my job, my other job, and kicked off, less than 12 months ago. And week before lockdown, so I'm doing the fitness as well, but I was doing 15 clients a week. It's really, really going wow, and just gutted, as I'm sure everyone is, that things have really sort of come to a complete standstill, understandably, of course. But yeah, just sort of, so just got my head around sorting the kids out, and I thought, no, I've got a Thursday night and I really want to come and just check in, because I'm getting to practice on Harry, and it's really interesting you say John, 40-something, IT, works at a desk a lot, and that's exactly Harry. And if anything, what I've been thinking at this time with what's going on is that so many people now, not only obviously as everyone's stress level has gone through the roof, but those home workers, the screen time has just, it's just constant, isn't it? And I look at it and I'm like, right, you've got to do some exercise. Like, yeah, okay, you've got to go for the stretch. Yeah. If you want to call in, you're not typing, can you stand up? Yeah. Because it's just, you sat next to me. There we go. I can say, it's everything. It's hips, bum, legs, back, shoulder, sub-scap as well. Like, don't forget the sub-scap. It's just, everything around there is just getting really tight and eggy and horrible. And so, he's back to looking like an octopus again, covered in cuts and sort of having some work done, which is great. But yeah, so it's just, I want to just try and think of ways also just to sort of keep in touch with my clients, but keep people on board. And I know people are saying, my goodness, I can't wait to come as soon as we can, in whatever picture that's going to look like for us as therapists. But you know, just to be able to say to people, you know, I've got to get my head around, right, here's some really good, you know, self sort of MET sort of stretches you can do to help, you know, we've got tension, we've got a headache, we've got high shoulders, just stuff like that, just to kind of keep in touch with people that find themselves either sort of feeling stressed, sat all the time, some hip flexor work, some neck work, you know, anything like that. It'd be good to know if anyone else is sort of how people are keeping in touch with their clients. I've had a couple contact me and I've sent a few tuition sort of videos for stretches and exercises, but just more on a social media level, just really what people might be doing. Sorry, I've gone on. Hello, everyone else.
It's fine, Claire. I wanted to know how you were, so that's why I asked. One of the things that came up, and other people might want to chip in with this, but a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we spent an evening thinking about just that very thing. You know, how do we keep our clients kind of engaged with us, and how do we kind of keep them thinking or helping them? And some interesting thoughts. You'll be able to go back through Teams, and I'll make a note. These evenings are recorded, so you can go back and watch previous evenings, which might be helpful in just thought-provoking stuff. You know, I think in summary, one of the things that came out was actually why not send your clients a small video of you doing the stretches, you know, of you self-massaging or whatever you're doing, so your clients see you. So they see you, and you know, you can have a personal interaction with them and a bit of a giggle while you explain, look, John, I can't be with you tonight, but how about doing some stretches? And I know this one's a familiar one for you. You know, you can talk it through, and if you're doing the stretches on yourself or your partner, and you're kind of doing a little video that they see you doing some work on your video on your partner, then that continues that relationship that's so important, and engages with people and gets them thinking about that you haven't just forgotten about them, you are thinking about them, and you're happy to engage and think with them about what's going on for them, rather than just send them a stag bog. Here's a video that I got off YouTube of how to massage your calves or whatever you're doing. You know, does that help?
Yeah, brilliant. I'm all up for showing them my face.
Yeah, and your good man might get involved too. You never know. It'll be good fun. Just anyway, look, but go back and see the other recorded evenings, and there might be snippets that you think, oh yeah, okay, I could think about that. This is tough stuff, and we do need to keep involved and keep in contact with our clients. So important. They need it as much as you do. No question about it. No question about it. Has anybody else got anything to add to that? I mean, Claire's interesting question. I don't know what other people have been doing to keep in contact with their clients, and anything that comes out at this point, you know, that you're thinking, oh yeah, I've done this and it's worked really well, or whatever.
I did a little video actually on might be an idea for people. I did a small short video on nutrition actually, which I did for a charity live Facebook for like an animal rescue place, and I invited all my existing clients to go to that Facebook on the day to engage, and it kind of got a lot of people involved all at once, and that sort of spread out. So it was like a win-win for everybody. So it kept me engaged with them. It did some great stuff for the animal rescue because they raised some money, and it kind of, I think it's just a good thing to do if you got a chance, just even a 10-minute, 5 or 10-minute video, send it to all your clients or send it to a charity or something.
Lovely idea. What did you do, Chris? You said, was it nutrition? Did you say?
I did a 30-minute talk on fat burning rather than fat storing, like nutrition type stuff. Yeah.
Brilliant. Nice.
Just sort of they're a local animal place, and they kind of they asked 3 or 4 local businesses to kind of do a video for this very reason. So it was quite a good opportunity. Then you invite all your clients to the day.
What a nice idea. A lovely idea. Great. I think you know, the more if there's anything that's come out of this, I've got a level 3 group that I'm kind of continuing working with, And one of the benefits of this has been talking about videos and making little videos that we can bounce backwards and forwards on techniques, making sure that we're on task. And it's been fun. It's been fun. You know, if you can talk your subject into a camera, then you know your stuff. And I think there's something really beneficial about that.
Yeah,
for you and your
videos. So I've done twice a week videos on either tension headaches, lower back pain, rounded shoulders, and yeah, normally like when I've done videos before, it's been kind of not me actually talking to the camera. I've like been in the background and just done a caption. And since actually like talking to the video, like feedback from it's been so much better in comparison to just putting it all in the caption. So yeah, I think people really appreciate hearing your voice, seeing you talking to the camera, and doing it in like real time and just talking them through it.
Love it. Yeah, and you know, that sense of humour that you can put across, and just that sense of you that people miss your stupid sense of humour and your obsession with eggs or whatever it is that I go on. You know, it's really nice that people remember those things about you, and it's nice, really nice. That's really cool. Good. Anybody else done anything?
Can I just jump in and say some of the things that we've seen some of the community doing on social media? We've had, I know a few people target the NHS workers, and in this time, obviously, they can't treat them. So they're giving giveaways for NHS nominate someone that's a key worker or NHS, and they'll receive a 1 hour treatment down the line. People are asking for testimonials, updating Google and Facebook listings, and just asking people that get in touch with them to wish them well, to say, oh, if you want to help, you could give me a testimonial on Google or on Facebook. And in terms of getting people back into their therapy rooms, just putting out on social media about wait lists. We mentioned it last week. I love that idea of just, do you want to get on my wait list? And then you've got this call list to go down as soon as you can open back up.
Yeah. Nice.
Wait list.
Anybody else got anything out there that they want to say?
Yeah, Chris, I've done a couple of tele sessions online, just like we're talking now, with a couple of clients who've been in real pain, and they just wanted to ask advice, and we ended up doing some face-to-face communication. Obviously, you haven't got the benefit of touch and being able to feel what's going on with the muscle, but there's certainly things that you can use your vision, you can ask all your questions, and if it's something that ends up ticking all the boxes and being run of the mill, you know what to give them, and you can pass them on with some exercises to do, some stretches for themselves, even some massage techniques. And in fact, one lady had an issue with her neck and trapezius, so I actually sent her the video of you and Olivia, no, you and Judith doing your, was it Judith or Olivia? I can't remember. Judith doing your massage. So I hope that was allowed, because one of my clients has got that now.
I'm sorry about that. Oh shit. Well, that's brilliant. It. You know that won't be coming back now, don't you, Sarah? That's it. No more clients. Is that the one where I drew on Judith's shoulder and I did some drawing, and then a second video of just some simple technique? Yeah, great.
Yeah. And the other thing I did was took screenshots of the essential anatomy. I highlighted the muscles that I wanted her to work on, and I sent those through post the conversation that we had, so that she knew where to look for and feel for the muscles to work on. So I've done a couple of those, but I'm not advertising for them and I'm not charging for them at the moment.
Yeah, that feels right, doesn't it? At the moment, that feels the right place. Just so people know, just so the video that Sarah's making reference to, if you go to our website and you across the top, you've got blog, if you click on blog, then Hannah here has uploaded all the little videos that I've made over the last couple of weeks or so. I've got some more coming this weekend, so bore the hell out of you. And just if you want access to them, that's where they are. I've got some seated massage ones coming down the spine over the weekend, which will be fun, Gavin. My good lady wife is, I don't know, she's tolerant if nothing else. But yeah. Anyway, so that's where they are if you need them, if you want to come back to them. Any other things that people have been doing, just following up that theme around kind of keeping in contact with our clients and engaging and sharing and keeping that fire alight, I guess, is it? Keeping contact. I'm going to move on with the silence because I'm okay with silences, but not for too long. I start getting a bit anxious after a while. So I'm all right for a minute or two. And I suppose the question would be for me, if you're not keeping in contact with your clients, then why aren't you? And next to that is, how are you going to do it? Is it just a text saying, look, I'm really sorry to hear that things aren't good, or this is how life is for me at the moment? Gauging your relationship with your clients is obviously a very personal thing. But I think this is make contact with people that I haven't spoken to for some time, and older work colleagues and all sorts of people. And I've been amazed how fruitful those conversations are and how important it is at this crazy time to find a way of keeping conversation going with people that we might easily lose touch with. So I encourage you to find a way of making contact with your clients in some kind of format that works for you, be that an email, be that whatever. I don't know, I'll leave that with you, but yeah, I'll keep it live. Anybody want to add to any of that, or should we go back to Mr. John and where do we start our treatment?
Hi Chris, it's Natalie from Wales here.
Hello. Nice.
How you doing?
Well, we're okay. We've just give you a little bit of background to so you know, Natalie. So Hannah and myself and Olivia have been working hard in the background, developing one of our sports level 3 course. Part of it will be going on live online for people to be able to do part of the course online, and the rest of it based in the classroom later this year. So rather than it being an 8-day course, it's now a 5-day course in the classroom. And that goes live from tomorrow and over the weekend. So we've been working visually hard in the background to get that kind of stuff off the ground. But thank you for asking. How about you? How about you?
Yeah, good. Following on from what you were just chatting about, I was a little bit kind of unsure, a little bit lack of confidence, I think, contacting like clients, because I only feel like I've been sort of doing this for 10 minutes before, we got shut down. So it was that sort of like, contacting people about asking, as and when we come out of this, would anybody like a treatment? And I was really, really surprised with the amount of people that actually came back to me and said, yes, please, put me on that list, So it was a really good boost for me, because I've only had probably about 40 people on my couch, and to have such a good response, it was a good confidence boost, for me. So yeah, I would urge anybody to do it. I did it on Facebook. I did it as a sort of a shout out, on my page, about talking about doing risk assessments, and looking at government guidelines, and as and when the time is right, and talked about it like that. And yeah, so had a really good response. So yes, I'd urge anyone who's not confident or is just starting out in this game like I am, that it's amazing what will come back.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I had a lady called Jill who I work with in my background's in social work and childcare, and she texted me a couple of days ago, and I last made contact for her I don't know, 20 years ago, and we've had a couple of conversations on the phone, and it's been a real pleasure. And hey, how cool it is to actually make contact with people. So I agree with you. Find your courage from somewhere, and put a bit of thought between the impulse and the action, and then come up with it and see what happens.
Yeah,
really nice. Should we anybody else want to say anything to that? or do we move back to our assessment? I suppose the key thing, I'm going to get back on with John. The key bit is, where do we start a treatment, and having a think about that. And does it really massively matter? I'm not sure there's a massive great plus answer here. I tend to work on the muscles that are shortened first, rather than the muscles that are carrying the tension and the strain. So for me, I would be working more on his chest, but in that same treatment, I would work on his upper back. And I think I would work on his hip flexors and psoas and see what's going on there with a range of movement, of course, and then move that into a treatment. But what about aftercare? How are we going to manage that with John? How are we going to make it kind of manageable for him to, I think Olivia a bit earlier on was saying that you give people more than 2 things to do and they forget about the third. I think she said that. And what do we think about that? Is that good, or is it good to give people an email with some sort of videos on stretching and strength control? Where do we go with this kind of rehabilitation? Or it's clear that John is weak in certain areas and needs strengthening, no question. How will we deliver that to him, and when?
I think I would definitely try to bring up loosening his lower limbs up, his joints up, before he goes on a long walk with the dog, and also doing a quick stretch of them when he gets back after walking the dog, because I think that's probably where his knees are getting all jammed up, probably through quads around his, or hamstrings around his knees are tightening up, or calves even. So for the sake of 2 or 3 minutes, I would definitely try and encourage him to do that sort of thing as a starter.
Yeah, that idea of preparation for some exercise, is that what you're thinking, Chris?
Yeah, so preparing the joints for, mobilising them before he goes out on a walk, and then stretching the joints back out after they've got tightened up to take the tightness away from his knee.
Yeah. I think the challenge for me with John. Sorry,
Chris. John could be a case for a referral on at some point to go and see like a strength and conditioning coach. Look for those areas, look for those muscles that are weak. I mean, you'd obviously have to take into account time and availability and finances, etc. But if he was motivated enough, and that's a key point, isn't it? If he's motivated, if he's not motivated to do simple exercises at home, how motivated would he be to go and see a strength and conditioning coach and do a session in the gym maybe once a week, really focusing on those weak areas? Sure. I guess it would depend on how much pain he was in and how much he wanted to resolve everything.
Yeah, that's always our challenge, isn't it? Just how much the client wants to engage in the rehabilitation and taking control. John needs to get into a place where he's driving rather than being driven. He needs to be in charge of this problem and taking it forward, isn't he? And taking himself seriously, and taking his health seriously. And that's a key feature here, isn't there? And for whatever reason, and I think it was Wendy who came in earlier and said think about this guy's stress levels. And we know enough about stress to know that it's a real debilitator of our self-worth. And how when we're stressed and overwhelmed by external factors like work and relationships and all that kind of stuff, we lose touch with our own sense of our own worth. And there's a real danger here that this man moves from crisis to crisis, filling in the gaps where he needs to with pain management and a glass of red wine or whatever he does. I don't know what he does, but I think stress is a key factor there in managing it. And we know also, don't we, with most exercise, that once you move into a place where you start to feel the benefits, it's out come all those lovely kind of hormones that make us start feeling good and start feeling of worth. And we start feeling we can go forward and feel, I don't have to be like this for the end of my life, I put his age in mid-40s because I wanted to get that thought about at what point do men and women start to feel old. at what point have you peaked? Yeah, at what point have you peaked? You know, you've done your stuff, you've got a good job, you've earned your 55 grand a year, you've got your house, you've got a reasonable bunch of family, kids, and all the rest of it. From here on in, it's all a bit downhill.
Thanks for that, Chris.
I like the idea of being evocative. So, what do you think?
One of the things I thought would be quite, apart from being cheeky for the over 50s, one of the really good things I think. Sorry?
Are you over 50?
Not being over 50 myself. One of the good things that I would recommend for aftercare for him, and I don't know if the other guys have heard, I think when I used to do it, they call them like back brace, which just goes over the top part of your shoulder. So looking at him, he came across as a character, which we don't know, as being not wanting to get out, not hold his posture right. But if he sat at his desk, which may not be at the right height, etc., if you wear one of those little back braces, which are, I think they're about 20, 30 pounds, I don't know how much they are nowadays, but they literally come over the top of your shoulder and make you, so he couldn't slouch at the desk. So the work that you're doing, that would be a good after care thing to offer, because he's not got to do anything to get a reward, to actually hold him in a good position. So if
so John's not going to get
like the rest of us. So that's, you know, no pain, no gain. Just putting it out there. But I'll let people have their idea.
Yeah, it's the whole purpose of this evening is that that's what it's so good about, isn't it? That we all have a different view. I hadn't thought about those braces for a while, and I think you can still get them, can't you? They're I guess they do.
They were just, I can't remember what they were made of, but it's sort of like a fabric, isn't it? It wasn't like, it's a bit webbingy.
I think I've got one here. Is this what you mean? Is this what you mean? It kind of goes over the shoulders like that, like a little rucksack, and it just pulls the shoulders back.
Massey's got one, look.
I have.
Actually, that looks a bit like a thong.
Yes, it does. It looks a bit dodgy, but it just sort of goes over like that, because I round my shoulders, and it just sort of reminds me to keep them back. They're very useful, actually.
And it really, really does work for people in office desks, because they tend to slouch. You know, I can feel I'm doing it now.
What does it do then? Does it pull your shoulders back?
Yeah, it just makes you sit straight.
I'll take my earphones out.
You were around underwear for a minute, Natalie.
I mean, the other thing, it depends if people have done the course or not, but you could always use a bit of K-tape just between the shoulder blades, just to give them that reminder, so that they are doing the work themselves, and it's going to hurt. It's going to ache initially because of the change of posture, but just to give them that reminder, and that tape just starts to go, and then you give them it back. The other thing is, you could just be faced with somebody that wants to feel better, and he's going to furnish your couch every month, and I'll take his money every month, and we'll just carry on.
That's not the attitude, Claire.
It is. Because there are some of those out there, and we know it, and that's fine.
Yeah. I agree. Of course there are. I've always enjoyed the model of providing an environment that empowers people to look after themselves. As you know, I go on about it all the time. I agree with you. Okay. Is there anything else we need to think about with John?
Sorry if I missed it. Other simple things, literally just to get him moving, because we want to get this guy out of the chair when he's at work and stuff. Is just get him to, you know, set him a water challenge, because he's got to get up to take a whiz at some point. So, you know, get him drinking, look after his fascia, and get him moving.
Would you do any functional tests? So like checking, what his legs are doing when he's doing squats, when he's doing single leg squats, and when he's just balancing on one leg.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned, put down here that he seems to stand with all his body weight on his right leg. Why is he kind of like, why does he stand, more favouring the right leg? Is there any other injury history? I mean, you could have, because if you're going to start work on the pelvis and legs, maybe look at that whole kind of that chain right the way down to the foot.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mark. I think it was Sarah, wasn't it, who said a bit earlier about Trendelenburg sign and just getting a sense of what's going on with the pelvis generally, firing orders and stability around his IT band and that knee pain potentially. We don't know, but absolutely. There's a lot of work there, isn't there? And I think we can all agree, can't we? This is a number of treatments over several weeks and months of gradual, setting the stage for him to feel better.
I think another good thing before you start the treatment, if you actually had him on the couch, because I was looking at the whole thing from a more holistic side, because I was thinking of him coming to me for reflexology as opposed to massage. So the good thing about before you start is you're just chatting to them, and when they get up on the bed, before they've got themselves comfy, you can see the way his feet are hanging. So whether it's inverts or if they're inverted or not inverted, that's always a good sign, how they actually hold their legs without their knowledge. So they've not put it in a position that you want it to be in. So you can actually see if there's a problem normally with the hip or the knee when they're just sort of sat at the bed looking at them from feet back to their head. So that's how I'd be looking to try and find whether there was a hip problem.
Yeah.
As opposed to feeling for it first.
Sure.
But just that would be more so if I was going to do a reflexology treatment, because I get them on the bed and start chatting first before I say, right now, I'm going to take a look at your feet. Because you can see how their feet are falling, whether it's involved. Because it's a subconscious, just how you do to protect pain.
And those are all cues, aren't they, Wendy? As soon as they walk in, how are they walking in? Are they kind of limping a little bit, or have they got, are they hunched over? How are they moving? How are they getting onto the couch? How do they stand? Those are all cues as well, for prior to actually starting the treatment.
Yeah, because they're not conscious of those then, are they? Because they don't try and cover it up, or they're not doing. Yeah, that's brilliant time to look. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good points, Wendy.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one, isn't it? That kind of. Let me unfold a little bit more about John, in that he is actually what is one of my ex-clients. I've known John for probably about 20 years, maybe a bit less than that, 18 years. And I can tell you a little bit more about John before we go away tonight. And it's all true what he's done and what he did. His knee didn't actually really play very much part in the road to recovery. And I think Chris's point earlier, that actually when he started finding a way of looking after himself a bit better, and stretching and lengthening and strengthening his legs. And what I got him doing was that he liked to walk his dog, but I got him walking the same distance but quicker. So it wasn't about doing more in terms of length of walk. It was actually doing what he was doing shorter but faster. So his dog had to go a bit quicker than he did. And that's how we got him thinking about feeling better, about feeling fitter. So rather than giving him more to do, I asked him to do his walk quicker. And that allowed him then to do it, have more time. So when he came back from his walk, he had 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do the stretching or sit on his couch and stretch out his quads and hamstrings a bit before he used to walk his dog first thing in the morning and before he went to work. And before he went in the shower, I got him to think about walking his dog for quicker. It used to take about 40 minutes. And I said, look, if you knock 5-10 minutes off that by shortening your walk, but doing it quicker, he used to come back feeling better about his exercise. And on the back of that, we gradually got him cycling. But that took probably about, I don't know, 6 months or so. And gradually over the time, he got better and better. And there wasn't a real kind of shift of the treatment in terms of where I started. Everything we've said tonight, we covered it all in the fullness of time. But I did see him on a kind of fortnightly basis for, I don't know, almost a year and a half. And then after that, he came back and used to see me, I don't know, once every couple of months or so, just as a reminder that soft tissue work he used to really enjoy. And stress levels for him were very high. And he found hands-on that combination of working on trigger point areas to release tension, and soft tissue work really helped him, and he really enjoyed his visits and time on that basis. So I don't know if you want to ask any questions about that now. I've kind of that's the history of John, and interesting man.
Did Chris? Did you manage to get his head tilted back and his chest out? Then has he got a better posture now?
Yeah, he had that very classic, tight head neck flexors. Scalenes and sternocleidomastoid were just solid. He suffered a huge amount with pec minor and rounding of his shoulders. His curvature in his back, I don't think I ever got him to a point where you'd look at him and think, gosh, there's a chap who's really holding up and feels good. But what we got to was a point where he was pain-free. So it was more about getting movement in him than actually massive kind of correction of, he got better, but he had a demanding job. He was a team manager in an IT unit, and he managed, and anybody who knows anything about IT, it's all about kind of setting goals and achieving and deadlines, and it's a crazy world. And he worked for for one of the banks, that's so we got there eventually, Chris. We did open up his chest and got that head back, but it took a long time.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, Chris. How much did sort of work did you do on the pelvis and sort of glutes, hamstrings, and did that really play that much of a role in the pain that he was struggling with in his chest and shoulders and just around that neck area and it all being tight up there?
Yeah, I saw that as I worked my opening treatments, which I've still got the notes of, which is interesting that you keep these cards, and I've got boxes and boxes of cards. And when I put this together, I thought I better find out a bit about this guy, remember my treatment with him. So I dug through my cards, and my first treatments were really looking at short muscles, and that's all I really focused on. So pecs, obviously pec minor more than major, but he was very medially rotated in his humerus. So anterior deltoid was a big, I used to touch his anterior deltoid, and they were very tender and sore all the way down to a crease in his arm. So they were constantly being worked on. Right side shoulder was because of the mouse. And I think your point, Chris, about his working position, I think it was yourself, Chris, who said about working position and getting that kind of right angles that Sarah mentioned, and the mouse position made a big difference to him. And right. His mouse was quite front on his couch, so his right shoulder would really pull forward when he was on his mouse. I asked him to sit in front of me, how do you use the mouse? And he role played it. I thought, blimey, all this right side was pulled forward. So he was in quite bad shape. But I worked on those shoulders first, and then I worked on his hip flexors. I didn't do much work, certainly for the first 2 or 3 treatments, around anything else other than RecFem, psoas. TFL was rubbish. His range of movement for tensor fasciae lata was really poor. So I worked on those main hip flexors. QL, I worked on that opposing kind of rectus spinae, QL, longissimus, iliocostalis, all those deep multifidads around the lower back, and got him moving gradually. But it was about him feeling better about himself was the key feature. And the walking of his dog seemed to, it was a duty that he had. He couldn't do anything about it. He had to do it. That was his job in the morning. So I started thinking with him about how he could make that more fun. And rather than a bloody chore walking a dog in the morning, making it something he came back from and felt good about. And it really worked. Really, he used to time himself, and it got him kind of fired up about it, you know.
When you asked him to increase the intensity of the walks, did that bring on the pain in his knee?
Not massively so, not really, no. Because his dog walk, I don't know, was half an hour or something like that, you know. It wasn't very long, and no, it didn't. He was able to walk that bit faster, feel a bit better about it, come back a bit hot, and that started him feeling a bit better about the whole idea of exercise. His theme was that he was 40 plus and feeling a bit past it, which was really interesting.
Chris, did you work at all? Can you remember on his subscap to try and open him up a bit more or not?
Yeah. Subscapulitis was a big medial rotator, isn't it, of the arm? And yeah, big time. Yeah, that whole medial rotation was massive for him. Yeah, definitely. Difficult muscle to work on. He didn't like it very much at all.
Very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Difficult for the therapist and for the patient, I think.
Yeah, it's a true armpit job, isn't it? But ME2 worked well, and you know, and at one point, I met his wife, and she dropped him off one day, and she waited for him because they were going off somewhere else. I said to her, would you like to come in and just watch the treatment? And she said, yeah, sure. So she had a cup of tea and she just sat in the corner of my room. And I asked her to do a couple of moves with him at home. And I taught her MDT in a very straightforward way around retraction, you know, just sitting on a chair with your arms behind your head, pulling back, and somebody holding a basic MET stuff. And they did that. And so gradually, as he began to feel better, his wife helped, and as so often it helps. It does a great job when you can get people involved with getting themselves better. Self-motivation is really tough.
What you did there was genius, though, giving him exercise that actually saves him time.
Yeah, he felt motivated by that, Katie. You know, he just thought this is cool, and I think he needed to feel, you know, of worth. He was worth it, you know. And it's often when that whole Wendy's point about stress and pain, that combination of those things, we lose our own worth. And I think it's so important to get hold of that and to hold on to that as a way of how do I make this person feel of worth again, rather than feeling he was 45, you know, he was knackered, he was past it, blah blah blah. You know.
And that psychological aspect can help with the pain in itself. And I think many people out there that do that. Oh yeah, I'm of an age. I'm to expect to have pain. And you know, the more they're in pain, the more stress, the more they get into more pain, and it's actually them. But no, we don't have to be in pain. The older we get, there's ways around it. And if we get a boost to our mood, self is going to help.
Yeah, we have a real theme to work on, don't we, about people and getting older and believing that we should be on statins or pressure tablets because we're getting older, and we affiliate age with degeneration of major things like type 2 diabetes or whatever. And you're absolutely right, Katie. We can be old and not be medicated at all, and be fit and well by our lifestyle and how we look after ourselves. Absolutely. So many people will say, well, I'm on statins because I'm over 55. My doctor tells me it's good for me because I've got slightly high cholesterol, which is what happens when you get old, isn't it? If I've heard that once, I've heard that many, many times.
He's over 40 now. They suggested over 40, aren't they? Frequently that everyone should be on statins over 40. Crazy.
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah. The only people that benefit are the people that make the tablet.
Yeah, that's true. So true.
Yeah, and I think it's been. I mean, I don't want to dwell on about it because I get my little bee on my bonnet about it. But you know, that one of the things of the last desperate news of the people losing their lives across the country to this terrible thing that we're living with at the moment. It makes us terribly aware of the national health issue. You know, good health. And how poor people's health is. It's just devastating.
Yep.
So I don't know if anybody else wants to mention any more about John, or ask any more questions about him. Bless him. He was a good client. Sadly, I don't see him anymore.
Did you ever manage to get him to do any exercises or to go to a gym to work on you know, strengthening his muscles or anything like that, or was he just not motivated?
He took up cycling for a period of time, Mark, and would cycle. I think his kids went to a local school, and they used to cycle to school and back. So he used to cycle a little bit, but I don't think it went on for very long. What he really got into was the idea that he has to lengthen some of these muscles, and he began to move into the idea of you know, that yoga lengthening work of opening up his chest. And yeah, I encouraged him to go swimming, but he told me where to go. So swimming didn't happen. Because I think swimming is great, but anyway, so he wouldn't listen to that. But he did move into on a regular basis. I think about twice a week. He was obviously, in the latter times I used to see him. Once you kind of unlock the kind of chronicness of the problem that had been building up, you know, we think, don't we, that injury comes, we had this problem because I picked my suitcase up, or I got out my car funny, or I fell off my horse, or whatever happens. Often chronic situations are just that, you know, they are a long-term slow degeneration and lack of movement that come over months and years. And in reverse, when we start to break down the fascia and get movement back into the system and get people feeling better about themselves and feeling that they are able to stand straight and hold themselves open, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when he actually got to a place where things are feeling better and he got more movement, Joan, his wife, would do some stretching with him, and I encouraged him to do that a couple of times a week. He actually got to a place where he was kind of out of pain, feeling reasonably good about himself, and kind of enjoyed his fast walks with his dog. And that was kind of enough. You know, he wasn't ever going to be a, you know, somebody who was going to go to the gym. That wasn't his scene. Didn't really want to see kind of gym people, didn't like that world. But he was into kind of doing enough. And which is probably the story for many of our clients, isn't it? We don't have to be fit and strong and, you know, Popeye. We can just be ordinary shaped people that look after ourselves in an ordinary kind of way. I encouraged him to eat more fibre. He was a bit of a meat man, so we talked about where we get our fibre from and the importance of sort of thinking about his kind of, you know, nutrients that get absorbed through fibre and what fibre does in our gut. And gradually, you know, that was a story over a long time. It was a long burn, Mark. It went on for several years before I could talk straight with him. But it was fun. He was a very nice man. I'm very fond of him.
Let's hope his dog's not getting too old, then he won't keep up with him.
You what? Sorry, Chris.
Hope his dog's not getting too old, then otherwise he won't be able to keep up with him, will it? You have to upgrade to a puppy or something.
Yeah, I think he had. Funny enough, I think I did see him not that long ago, about a couple of years ago, and I think he has. I think his dog. I think his first dog passed on. I think so. He's on to the second. I think. I don't know. I saw one of his daughters, and they was chatting to me and gave me an update of him. But yeah, long time ago. So, where do we? Where are we? We're about 8:30. I mean, we can bring in other things now and other things that people are sitting on. Wendy's not eating tonight at the moment. She's going to eat a bit later, I think. Are you going to eat a bit later, Wendy?
I ate before we started tonight.
Did you?
I found the candle. Yeah. So
Okay,
I'm getting there, Chris. But I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe that I did that last week. But you now know how big my salt and pepper pot are.
Yeah, it was important. I think Mark made some comment that he thought it was a bit too large, really. I mean, that was his view, but I have.
They were.
Yeah,
big.
no, your woman can't have too big a salt and pepper pot, can they? But now you know how much salt and butter I eat. But being over 55 and working in a pharmacy, I definitely don't want statins. So I think I agree. I'd rather do reflexology and massage and swim.
And swim, good lady.
And swim, yeah.
One of my biggest issues over the last few weeks is I haven't been swimming, and it kills me. So it's
horrible, isn't it? I've taken the bike out now. At 3 o'clock, I couldn't sleep the other night, so I bought myself a new bike. Just as you do. But it's got a little basket on the front.
And you went for a ride in the middle of the night? Is that what you said?
I didn't do that. I just looked at the PC in the middle of the night. I thought, actually, I didn't want to borrow anybody else's bike. I'm going to have my own. Rose gold.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. That's good. We need a picture, Wendy, at some point when you're ready. It's important we see evidence of these things. We don't just hear about them.
Yeah, it's bigger than the salt and pepper pot anyway. Good week this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what. Has anybody else got anything there they want to bring in, or think about, or share?
Hello.
Oh, who's that?
My Wi-Fi. It's Tracy.
Hello, Tracy. Good evening.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the blended learning course. Olivia sent me an email this week about the course about to start, and I can't wait to get enrolled onto it.
You've made my day, Tracy. You've got no idea how exciting that is for us. Yeah, sure. We called it the blended learning course because it's blending that online process of sports massage with at the end of it, the 5 days contact later on. When the dust settles and we can see. I think we've got dates now on the website of. So they're going live.
Obviously, we spoke about last week about obviously we don't know what's happening with the lockdown and dates and things like that. But if the courses are if we're up and running and back to work, say, let's just say a guess here, July, would you think about bringing them dates forward, or would you leave them? I think it's November. I think you've got them, or obviously it's maybe a question you can't answer.
Yeah, I don't think it would be silly of me to answer. Well, I think as a college, what we're very aware of is that there are a whole group of students that are part way through their courses, looking to finish the classroom attendance, and we don't want to get that muddled up with what we're doing now. That will be important. But I would be open to all sorts of flexibility once we know and have some idea of what the future holds and how we're going to move forward. Then there's room for discussion. And I've been talking to Olivia and Hannah in the background to really think about those as best we can and to be as creative and as flexible as we need to be. And there will be things like restrictions of how many people we're allowed in our building at any one time. Social distancing isn't going away. So we're going to need to kind of work out, at the moment in our classrooms, maximum we can have 12 people, 10 to 12 people in a classroom. Usually it's about 8 to 10 on a sports massage course-ish. And we might not be able to do that. I don't think we will. I think it will be less than that. So how we go about kind of turning this craziness into reality is yet to be discussed. But stay in there, Tracy, and we will, if we can help, and what we do, we will do our best to make things happen. I know that there's a number of people that are interested in the sports massage blending course. So yeah, and I'm the tutor for that. So we will be having conversations, and in not too distant future, which I look forward to. That'll be really cool.
No, that's it's perfect for me because, as I said before, I really want to get onto the course, and the prospect of thinking maybe it was going to be next year, I was like, oh, you know, but now to actually even just get a start on it, and like you say, even if it's just like 3 online style and talking to you guys about it, even if it is not till November we get the classroom contact days, at least it's a start, you know, and I can start learning and thinking about, you know, rather than waiting to, you know, whenever. So it's perfect. It's the best email I've had in a long time. I'm like, yay.
Well, I'm pleased to I can't take too much glory in this one. I've done some of the audio talking over, which you'll see when you get the course, but Olivia and Hannah in the background are the soldiers that get this stuff off the ground, and they've done a lot of work, so it's been impressive.
Oh, that's
so
great.
I'm very fortunate to have a good team of people who work very hard. So and I suppose, yeah, anybody else want to sort of add anything or bits that we go through? Or
Chris, just a quick one, Chris. I'll talk about your courses later on. You talk about social distancing, which obviously is going to happen for a while. So let's say you only have 4 or 5 people in your classroom, but even then, I guess you can't do any practical stuff, can you? Because you can't get near each other, I suppose. It's all going to be theory, is it?
This is a really interesting question, Chris, isn't it? And how beauty therapists, dentists, tattoo artists, massage therapists, hairdressers, how we move into somebody's personal space. Well, you know, I think is I've got a good friend of mine who works in the leisure industry, particularly assessment-wise and risk assessor. And he and I were having a conversation last week, and you know, imagine a situation where you've got kids doing their swimming lessons. Well, you can't have more than, normally there will be 15 in the pool. Well, you couldn't have a swimming lesson with 2 people in the pool. The swimming lesson will take all morning. Yeah, there's some reality around this on how this gets translated into what's practical for us at the coalface. We don't know yet, do we? Other than I kind of imagine, when I was talking to Pete, my friend, we moved into the discussion of personal risk, and when we move into that place where there's apps that are available to allow us to know when we're having potential contact with people, or we've had isolating situations. At some point, in some way, I guess we're going to have to take some risk on a personal level. I guess. I don't know. I don't know, Chris, is the answer, any more than you. I'm sure we're all talking about this, aren't we?
I suppose there'd be some. I suppose self-testing will come into the equation, maybe. So you know, the risk gets reduced if everyone gets tested before they come to a classroom situation, for example.
Yeah. I know that Ofqual, in terms of the governing body of the educational, you know, the frameworks that how we deliver our courses, the ITech courses and stuff. Ofqual are talking with our professional body, ITech, and VTCT, just to give us some guidance around that. And I know that's sort of coming together in the next week or two. So I'm kind of hopeful, and I caught a little bit of Mr. Boris earlier as well. You have a sense of some information starting to come out towards the end of next week, of us beginning to see the picture of what the future is going to be about. It's going to be slow, and I think it's going to take several months, isn't it, before normality, whatever that is, starts to enter our doors again. But at some point or other, we're going to have to be, we're going to be in a place where we want to massage people, and that involves people laying on our couches and us doing our stuff. It's, you know, and at some point, people that come into your door for your treatments will come with a element of them taking that risk, and that will be a personal choice, given you using gloves or a mask or an apron or whatever you need to do to provide an environment which is as clean as possible, or whatever. Whatever. It's yeah. I don't know.
Challenging. Challenging.
Yeah,
Very
challenging for people. My heart goes out to all of us really in this industry. If you're self-employed and you've, I think Claire was saying earlier, works a busy clinic, just got to the point where she feels that she's achieved, the numbers that she needed to feel of worth in the industry, and then overnight, nothing. And that's a real hit for people, a real financial hit, emotional hit on all levels. It's devastating, absolutely devastating.
Really sad.
And I guess you're in the same place. I don't know you, Chris, so I guess looking at you around you, I guess that's your treatment room, is it? And
yeah, similar, but I'm slightly more fortunate because I do personal fitness training, so I'm doing a few online sessions with people as well. But it's my business is taking a massive hit. Yeah, so I'm probably doing about a fifth of what I should be doing to keep a business running. So it's tough, really tough.
It's tough. Yeah, it's really tough, and the support structures for the self-employed have been minimal, really, haven't they? They don't really, unless you've got 2 or 3 years decent profits as a self-employed tradesperson, you haven't got much to pull on,
No, and that's it's all based on profit rather than takings as well. But it's something, it's better than a kick up the backside, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's tough. No, I really get. I get it. It's yeah. I don't want to particularly end in a pretty negative note. I want to talk in terms of positives, and that there will be some change, and we will go forward, and we will come up with a viable solution that will be tenable. Absolutely. I wonder. Does somebody else want to say anything in the background there? I wonder where we go with the case studies, whether or not I do another one, or whether or not we do one for reflexists. Yeah, interesting to think about. Where do we? Is the case study? Is it a nice thing to do? It gives us the focus for the evening. But I'm aware that when we talk about them, particularly if it's a sports-related one, there are people in the audience that are not sports-related, and that's important too. So, what are people's thoughts about that?
Chris,
I mean, I really like the case study. I thought it worked really well. It was really nice to get your teeth into, just as if someone had come into your clinic. You can look at the different issues. I always love the question, where do you start your treatment and why? As you know, Chris. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I was certainly aware that it was quite sports focused, and I would have really been interested to hear people from other backgrounds, so holistic, reflexology, aromatherapy, how they would have approached it, what they would have looked at as well.
Yeah, interesting one. Yeah.
Chris, I thought it was good as well. I'd like to do another case study, and I just looked at it as a reflexologist, so I only joined in with massage, but it made me stop and think and encourage me to be thinking about reflexology while I'm not actually doing it. So, I sat down and thought, if this person came in, so it's keeping your mind on the, so if you're not working all the time, it's keeping you engaged with it. So I think even if you put a case study out like that, I did it as a reflexologist. So if he came in to me showing those symptoms, and I wasn't going to give him a massage, I would have done it for reflexology. So I think we could just put it out there for both. Yeah, I wonder. I might have a conversation with Annette around this, and maybe ask her to present something, because I think it'd be really nice to. And forgive my ignorance, Wendy, around that reflexology. I don't know the reflex points. It's not my world, and it would be rather fun, I think, to kind of dive into that. And where would you start your treatment?
am I right in saying with reflexology there is a protocol that you follow the same treatment whatever somebody brings in, or is it routine? Forgive my ignorance.
There is a routine, a full routine. But if somebody came in with symptoms like that, you would probably focus. That's where I was looking at him coming in. Okay, he's portraying those symptoms. So obviously, as a reflexologist, wouldn't be giving him massage. So I would be looking at his feet to begin with, see were they hot, sweaty, clammy? Was his foot inverted, not inverted? So is there really something going on there? Or are you trying to put together the pieces? Is he really stressed, holding himself tight, sat clenched up, muscles tight all day at work? Or is he really got an issue going on, which is a muscular issue, opposed to emotional one as well? Then recommending the swimming, doing the reflex points on his hands, in between working over the head. So working the solar plexus, the adrenal reflexes, and then going over and seeing if there is something in the reflex. Is there something doing the shoulder reflex, going across the chest and things? So yeah, so it's really interesting, and I think it'd be nice, and there's probably reflexologists listening to, which we can all learn from each other, because they may do a different move or work on a different reflex to us, or be doing different sort of massage. So that's why it's great listening to other people to pick up ideas you can then use in your treatment room.
Yeah.
I'm very aware that I probably say too much.
No. That's no.
So I really like the case study.
Yeah. Okay.
So thanks for that.
No. I shall have a play and maybe have a conversation with Annette, because I think it'd be interesting. What I like about reflexology is that real underpinning knowledge of anatomy and physiology into how the body works, and on the endocrine system and the neurological system, and the depth that you have to know, when you're working on a reflex point, how that affects the hormones is so essential in reducing stress level and turning that into releasing this tight shoulders in this case. So I'd quite like to learn more about that.
I think you can release a reflex point on the zone, and it will clear other problems that are going on. So you can, see things in the spinal reflex, also reflect on organs in the body. So it can turn up in the spine, but the actual problem is in the pancreas. Or
exactly. And so it's a really powerful treatment. I think it's my little knowledge of these things is that I don't think reflexologists say enough about that, and you should be singing from the treetops about your underpinning knowledge of how the body works. And it's a really important skill you develop, and powerful stuff. It isn't just about massaging the feet and working on trigger points and hoping that you touch something that's going to make a difference. It's a really in-depth understanding of the homeostasis, I suppose is the word I'm looking for. The homeostasis of how the body gathers itself and makes itself in our Western world. So yeah. I'll do a bit of it. I might have a chat with her. I'm going to get her involved. Bless her. She doesn't know that yet. Okay.
Bless her. That'd be good.
I'm aware that we may be at the end of the evening. As always, it's great. I look forward to these evenings. There's something about seeing faces that I don't see very often, or not at all at the moment. It's really lovely, and I appreciate your input, and these things work by people going in and being part of it, and sharing their observations and skills. Nice to meet you, Chris. I don't think we've met before. Is that right?
No, happy to meet you too. I've been meaning to get to you for a long time, but typically when you're doing your Thursday nights in Cirencester, I've always got clients. So ironically, in this situation, I'm able to catch up with you at last.
Well, there's a benefit for both there. Whereabouts are you based, Chris? Where's home?
It's a little village called Lambourne, just on the edge of the Wiltshire-Berkshire border. So it's probably only about from your place, probably about 1 hour.
Yeah, yeah. Nice part of the world, lovely part of the world. Well, thank you for joining us. And you know, if you're hanging around not doing much next Thursday, come and see us.
I'd like to. Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah. Is anybody? If we've got anything else we want to bring in, then that's great. Or we can say goodnight, whatever makes sense.
Just say thanks from my end. I know obviously I'm not caught up on many Thursdays because various bits and pieces. But you know, I appreciate everyone's got a different input, but your academy and your college, you know, is very far-reaching in terms of the treatments that you train people in, and we've got a few weeks clearly of this to go. So I mean, yes, it's great to be mixed, but obviously from my own selfish point of view, you know, a wholly sports massage night probably would be good. If that's an option, and of course everyone's obviously welcome to chip and join in, but maybe, you know, maybe something more around some techniques if people have got, you know, bodies that they live with and could try some new bits out, or bits might be good if, you know, or send something in advance so you've got a crib sheet of, I don't know, Chris's top 10 tips for whatever. You know, and you can sort of send the menu out beforehand and people decide. I don't know. You know, it might be something that.
Well, no, it's really helpful, Claire. I mean, it's always helpful. The best of these things happen by people brain sharing and just sort of storming it and coming up with some ideas. That's how it happens. And you know, yeah, I'm up for anything. You know, we did a quiz the other week, which was quite silly, really. Mark didn't do that. It was pretty rubbish, actually, Mark.
What? Come on, Mark. Pull your socks up.
I did terrible. I did terrible.
But,
don't talk to me about it. It's shameful, to be honest. You'll have to join the next quiz, Claire, and do better for the both of us, I think.
What? Have we got to be in a team then, mate? Is that it?
I think Mark needs more than a flipping team.
I would benefit from being in a team.
So,
yeah, no, I'll try and make it when I can.
Yeah, fine. Look, let's. I mean, you and I, Claire, can text each other a bit, maybe, and have some conversation. That'd be really nice, and come up with some ideas. But it's always good to share, isn't it? And if we share, then that's what Thursdays are all about. You know, the concept of Thursdays has always been about we share our knowledge and play around and talk to each other, and that's what it's about. Anyway, look, should we say good night there? And thank you for your input. Nice to see you all. Really nice to meet you, Chris.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, Chris.
Nice.
Really appreciate it. It's wonderful.
Thanks,
Lovely
everyone.
people. Thank
Nice
you.
to see you, Claire.
Yeah, you too, mate. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Take care. Bye.
Bye.
See you, Rog.
See you, Wendy. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers. Hello, Hannah.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Okay.
Is it just you and me now?
I think so.
Yeah, I've got nobody else on my screen.
Okay. Shall I sign off?
I wanted to see how you are, that's all. See how you